We have Guneet ma'am.
They say in Hindi that puri kainat, the whole universe, will make you successful.
Now you mentioned you supply across India. Is that correct?
You know, I'm so proud to tell you that our first employee is still with us. Old age homes, these foods can be sent immediately. We take that extra effort.
In our earlier conversation, you mentioned about freedom. I just want to understand what exactly it is.
To make sure that more and more women come out in the workplace. It's very easy to say women should come out.
Hi everybody. This is Meena from the Diamond Podcast. We have Guneet ma'am today with us today. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, ma'am.
Thank you, Meena, for having me.
Can we start off with what you do and what is Uncle Sam's Kitchen?
Meena, I am a lady behind everyone's heart. I call myself a cardiologist who gets to your heart through your stomach. I'm obviously in the food and beverage business, and this is our 29th year of loving and living what we do.
Wow. So your call is the Annapurni. What's the meaning behind it and what does that word mean to you?
That's a very, very big word, and with a big word comes a very big responsibility because food is a blessing. Food is something that we consume every day, and it is something which is a big responsibility. So it's a name I take with gratitude, and I work hard and with love every day to make sure whoever eats our food loves it.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's such a strong word, as you very rightly said. So you mentioned that it's been 29 years since you started Uncle Sam's Kitchen. Who exactly is Uncle Sam? I'm pretty sure everybody must be wondering, but who is Uncle Sam?
Now, that's a very interesting question. It's a name which has attracted many, many people. We told the US Consul General in the year 1997 that because they were our good clients, that's why the name was Uncle Sam. But the truth is that we are a professionally led company, and Chef Samir is the man behind the whole expertise of food and the business of food. And that's why we are called from Samir, Sam, Uncle Sam. Uncle being somebody who you instantly feel comfortable with. And kitchen is a place where you not only create food, you create memories, you create love. So Uncle Sam's Kitchen is a place which serves you like a family member, is a professional, and yet it's done with love.
So very nicely explained and so well spoken for sure. So you started your career into advertising and then you moved on to catering. So can you walk me through that journey? How exactly did that happen?
That's a fantastic question and something that comes into a lot of people's mind. I must tell you that I am not a hotelier. I'm actually a MBA marketing. I've done my English literature honors from Lady Shri Ram College in New Delhi. So there's nothing that I did for hospitality. But I married a chef, the best thing a woman can do. And while I was in HTA, which is one of India's top advertising agencies in the 90s and the early 2000s, I had a client called Citibank. They tell you that City never sleeps. That's their tagline. What they never tell you when you work on that account is that nor will you. I would work about 18 hours a day and realized that as a woman, I had responsibilities towards my home, my husband, and my family. I was a young professional at that time. So I decided, I also come from a large business background family. And I decided that that 5,000 rupees salary was not going to be enough to occupy me for 18 hours a day. So I would start a business of my own. Looking around me, the Chennai hospitality scene was pretty much at its infancy. There was either the Star Hotel or a local restaurant, but nothing in between. Coming from a background which was into a lot of hospitality and being married to a chef, I actually married both these two skills and put forth Uncle Sam's Kitchen, which was a stylized outdoor catering company. It came to your homes, to your offices, to your consulates, to your foreign banks, and gave and put out food just like a hostess would. So I came along as a surrogate hostess and we put out international as well as cuisine from India something that was not available in Chennai at that time, and very, very stylishly and interestingly. And that was probably the reason why we had meteoric success. So, roti, kapda, makan, food, clothing, shelter can never really go out of fashion if you are consistently good about the quality. We've done our job, and Chennai has embraced us like they always do, encouraged us and brought us to where we are. I'm ever so grateful.
That's so nice. So when you first started Uncle Sam's Kitchen, what was your original goal? Like as a young girl that's starting a business, we all have something that we want to do. What was something that you want to do out of Uncle Sam's Kitchen?
You know, the first thing I'd say is that I didn't think so much. I just wanted to get away from working 18 hours a day for someone else and work for myself. I came from an entrepreneurial background, and that's what really took me forward. So I just jumped in, had a lot of encouragement and a lot of salutes from people who worked with me because I come from the north of India. I don't know the language. I don't have a single relative in Chennai. In fact, I don't know anyone in Chennai. A lot of people were surprised that I chose Chennai to be the place where we would, we start a business.
Right, right.
I didn't think so much. I went ahead with confidence. I went ahead with confidence on really my capabilities. And also, it's okay at 24 to not make it.
Right.
I went ahead, started the business, really captured the space which was available, kept an eye on the market, making sure that we actually bought out something which was not available. So, really giving solutions to what the market requires is something which is very, very important. Second is, of course, passion. And when you do it with passion and love and professionalism, you don't see time.
Right.
You don't see even achievements. You just go and give it your best.
So if you can go back 29 years, the day when you first started, what is one thing you tell your younger selves?
I would pat my back. I would pat my back and I'd say kudos for giving up a fantastic job, which you got at 22 by 24. And not only did I start a business, I also pulled my husband from his job 2 years later to work for his wife for the rest of his life. But more importantly, I really am so grateful that I got an opportunity to get the whole hospitality industry to grow. You never grow alone. When I started the food business, it required crockery, cutlery to match that kind of 7-star look that we were giving.
True.
So vendors came in for that. We needed linen. So we actually got vendors to start off with that.
Right.
Then we needed world-class ingredients. We needed vegetables. We needed groceries. I never grew alone. The whole market grew with me.
You lifted the ecosystem as a
Totally.
That's such a nice
So
thing.
I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and I'm definitely going to pat my back. I tell each and every one of you that if you think that the market requires something and you've got the solution, go ahead, jump, and things will happen. They say in Hindi that puri kainat, the whole universe, will make you successful. It's happened in my case. You can do it too.
That's such a strong thing. I feel motivated hearing that as well. So you and Chef Samir, as you rightly said, you pulled him in and he was your husband, right? So what was the dynamic in the marriage, maybe positively or negatively affecting the business as a whole? Obviously, you're two different people. You're from advertising and he's from the chef industry as a whole. So how did that have an impact in the business, Uncle Sam's Kitchen as a whole?
I think it had a very, very positive impact because as a chef, as a professional from the F&B and hospitality industry, he knew how to set the SOPs, how to put the systems in place, how to train people. While I didn't come from that industry, I am, from the marketing and PR industry. So I looked at the front end of the business.
Right.
And between the two of us, we kind of made these two separate sections.
Right.
I played to my skill, which is the front end. He played to his skill, which is setting up systems, processes. And I think that worked very positively. I'm a very, very outgoing personality, and
Right.
that rubbed off on him. He's a very quiet, silent, and a man of few words, but
Right.
huge support. And I think seeing him support his wife and the way he taught me and encouraged me, I think a lot of people learned some great lessons from him. So, till today, after so many years, we continue to do what we're good at
Right.
and, of course, rub off a little on each other. But I'm a huge advocate of husbands and wives working together, something that you don't listen to very often.
Right.
But if you are professionals and your goal is to make it, you will be able to do it. Work together because you'll understand timing, you'll understand effort, and you'll learn to appreciate each other.
And you'll end up
So-
complementing each other in a very nice.
Absolutely. We could actually harbor a great family because we're both in business together. Sometimes he stays home, sometimes I'm at work, sometimes I'm at home and he's taking care. And together, we've been able to raise a family and a whole, our workforce is also like a
Family, very much.
And we've been, I always say that you don't work for us, it's a family enterprise.
We work together.
Yes. And we are, a lot of our staff calls us Akka, Anna, of course, ma'am and sir, but it's a very, very happy place to work. And I think that's when you're happy with yourselves and supporting each other, what you create will also be the same.
Supporting you. Yes.
So couples must work together. It works. You got to make it work.
Most people connect catering with just wedding catering. Even until a few months ago, I thought catering was majorly wedding catering. What are the other kinds of catering? Because I know that you deal with so many things. So what are the other kinds of catering and what all do you deal with?
I'm thankful for that question. Catering is all to do with food which is cooked in one place and brought to the other. Now, or sometimes even cooked in that place and served, but predominantly that's the way it works. If you see the various segments that requires this, it's of course in weddings, but it's also in birthday parties, anniversary parties, home parties. It's also in offices where you're having a daily menu which is served to you while you are at work. It is packed boxes which are brought to office spaces when required or a buffet. It is large inaugural events,
Right.
large celebrations like annual days, family days. It is parcel orders.
Oh, okay.
So if you see, I've actually told you about 6 different brands that we run. We run Uncle Sam's Kitchen, which is our flagship brand, which is into veg and non-veg catering.
Okay.
We're probably the only ones in India who have a separate pure vegetarian kitchen. Take care of the Jains, the Marwaris, the Brahmins who do not want to eat from a kitchen which is the same for both. Most of the 5-star hotels also have the same. So we have Sam's Kriti, Sam's Creation, which is pure vegetarian.
Uh-huh.
For corporate contracts, which is served on a daily basis, we've got Sam and Co. Large offices like PwC, McKinsey, they get food from us and we serve it on a daily basis in a buffet format.
Wow.
They have corporate events like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 people, annual day, family day. Uncle Sam's Kitchen caters to that.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, we actually launched a brand called Sam Chacha. Sam Chacha, from 100 square feet kiosk, serves healthy, hygienic, homely meals which are less than 100 rupees. This is a franchisee brand. It was brought out so that people, even who are not wanting to spend a large sum,
Right.
but want to eat in a healthy place, we have something for them. And now we're getting into the hospitality training segment where we're opening a Cook's Academy and feeding the hospitality industry people who are trained. We're coming up with training programs for domestic help and what they should know. We're coming up with programs for feeder services to the hospitality industry. So different segments, all that require one place. We cook in our central kitchen called The Hive. It is a unique facility like no other. And from there, we operate all these different 6 brands,
Okay, wow.
which take care of every requirement that you could have if you are having any kind of a food requirement.
And now that you mentioned, you supply across India. Is that correct?
Well, we cater for large events across India. We've catered in, I'll start with the south of India, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Trichy, Udmalpet, Kodaikanal, Ooty. In the north, we've been to Calcutta, Delhi, Mumbai,
Uh-huh.
Bhopal. These are the places that we've catered to. So the veg and non-veg brands go for events. The office catering brands are for now restricted only to Chennai, Pondicherry, and Bangalore.
Okay.
And so are our delivery brands, which we do home deliveries.
Oh,
They are also
so this everyday cooking happens in Hive, which is
in
in
the
Chennai.
Hive, which is in Chennai. And we have now a small kitchen in Bangalore and, if required, in Pondicherry too.
That's lovely. You mentioned you supply to various events across the country, right? I am just trying to understand. India is a place where there's humongous amount of cuisine. There is Tamil Nadu particular taste, and then you have Andhra taste. You have different cuisines, right? How are you able to manage the authentic taste of each of these cuisine?
All right, I'm going to tell you a very interesting things that happened with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm so proud to tell you that our first employee is still with us.
Oh my God.
Yes. Why do I tell you that? It is because we have about 60 people in the kitchen. Some of them have actually been doing very similar dishes for the last 25 years.
Okay.
They have mastered that geographical location
Oh.
and they're only adding to their repertoire. So we have a chef who's actually a cook who came as a village boy. He only knew a little bit of Bengali cooking, but today he's a master chef when it comes to Bengali, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Delhi. We've got another team which does Punjab, Haryana. We've got another team which does Rajasthan and Gujarat. Coming down south, somebody from Andhra, somebody from Tamil Nadu, Kerala. So Goa, Konkan region, Mangalore. So we've got about 10 to 12 main chefs, and under them, more and more people who come up. The way we've managed it is that we have not taken people who already know the work. We teach them only one way, which is a Sam's way, which helps us remain consistent with the food quality and the taste. And probably that's the reason why we've lasted the test of time
Right.
and stayed for 29 years in this business and counting, because the same team has stayed with us. We've looked after them, their families in the villages, their children's education. And this word has spread in their villages, and more people are coming and joining us. We also invite senior chefs and do exchange programs.
Wow.
When they can come to us or we can go to them. And that's how we can cater pan India. So this is one magic mantra which has worked for us.
There's only one way, which is the Sam's way. I think that is something that has to be noted down. Okay, so what are some of the shocking or less known factors about the catering industry that a common man would not know?
Lot of very shocking things. It's
The food industry as a whole, right?
yeah, the first thing I'll tell you is that it's very famous that people actually jump their job even for 500 rupees. You know, you go to a restaurant, next time you go there, the food has changed because the person has moved. It's an industry with one of the highest attrition rates. And in that kind of an industry, to be able to manage the same team,
Yeah.
predominantly the same team, it's
That's yeah. How are you able to do that though? I mean, since you said that even for 500 if somebody's ready to move.
It depends on what you're giving back to them in return. If you're going to only fill your own pockets, it's not going to work. People must be empowered, not only in terms of salary, but also respect, also appreciation, and also a lot of learning. So don't ever feel that I can't train my team. The more you train them, the more they'll stay with you. Honor them and appreciate them for what they do. and pay them in both cash and kind. So that's
Right.
one thing which is very important. The second thing is, I would cannot reiterate more about this, is the quality of your ingredients and doing small things which have a big impact. Cooking with local produce, local farmers, reducing, the carbon footprint, not only looking at ingredients which are bought internationally. When you're cooking food for that region, use 0 kilometer sourcing. Make sure that you are actually getting authentic ingredients, going to the farmer if required, investing in where your ingredients are coming from, whether it's milk, whether it's produce. We have been able to do that.
Right.
And I think it shows in the food quality.
Okay.
We're also constantly learning. We're inviting housewives, we're inviting mommies, we're inviting chefs to come and teach us. You know, one of our most popular dishes is the Burmese cow sway. I actually learned it from a lady who'd uh, stayed in Burma all her childhood, got married in Calcutta, and when she came to visit her children in Chennai, she taught us this dish 26 years back. Till today, no one can make it as well as Sam's. And even the hotels started it only about 10 years ago. So we had a 15-year advantage.
Dominance, right?
Yeah. So be open to learning and give credit where it's due. When you give credit, you learn from someone. They are so happy to teach you and you keep learning.
Right.
So lots of our dishes are called Rishab Kebab. They are actually named after people who've taught us those dishes.
Wow.
And we keep learning and we keep giving our gratitude by naming the dish after them and executing it according to their vision.
Right. You mentioned things that you did. Now I want you to talk about things that you did not do consciously. I'm pretty sure the food industry has a lot of practices that you probably choose not to do. What are such practices that you avoided?
Actually, lots of them. First is reuse of oil. That is something that we don't do. We actually give it out. We give it out free. Second is very importantly, as I said, that using local ingredients and trying to see how local ingredients can be done, which gave rise to fusion cuisine, which we started very, very early. Thirdly, it's sustainable practices, garbage segregation, buying from registered vendors, because you are dealing with people's health, you're dealing with people's most important day of their lives. It cannot be recreated again. It's like a one-day cricket match. You have to win because that first birthday is never coming again. That 50th anniversary is never coming again. Someone's daughter's wedding will not be done again.
Yeah.
So you have to be sure that the kind of ingredients that you're getting are absolutely authentic and genuine. Then making sure that you look after waste,
Right.
garbage segregation, RO water, solar plants, little things which make a big impact.
Right.
If you come into our central kitchen, it looks like a resort because there are coconut trees, there are teak trees. You can actually climb up on a coconut tree,
Right.
pull down a coconut and serve it to a guest.
Wow.
We do a lot of R&D with herbs, with ingredients, and all these little things are not really practices which are followed. We have a little farm where we grow ingredients to understand what it takes to grow that ingredient
Right.
and what it takes to make sure that that ingredient is used to its best.
Best possible way.
So it's not just about fancy cuisine. It's also about the whole experience, which comes from taste. It comes from how it is served or how your mood is when you're eating that. No long queues. The waiters or the serving staff understanding what they are serving, how it's made, no mistakes with, allergies, knowing these little things, the serving team knowing, looking after you, having the same person serve you for years and years. Imagine walking into a party and somebody knows that you're a pure vegetarian and ensures that no non-veg, even if it's being served, is brought in front of you. Right? So you are being treated like a Mapile or like the VVIP. All of this together are not practices which are happening in the industry, but we have been able to ensure that we do them. And
But when you go so much into, personalization, because I am also in the field of personalization, I can kind of relate to what you're saying. But when you do so much into personalization, it becomes slightly difficult. You mentioned that when somebody is a vegetarian or when somebody has some kind of allergy, it's very important to not give them that food. How can you ensure each and every guest that's coming to a particular event is being treated the same way? Because there's a humongous number of people. And from what I know, the Uncle Sam's Kitchen deal for people with somewhere around 3,000, 4,000 people on a particular event, right? So how can you handle that huge of a crowd and still ensure everybody's getting treated the best possible way possible?
well, I'll say we do about 3 to 5 events a day, some big, some small, some very large. But there is only one way that we look after our guests, which is the Sam's way. We obviously cannot recognize everyone, but the care that is instilled into our team to go that extra mile should anybody require something. The care of briefing your team that yes, this has nuts. Should anybody have a nut allergy, please go ahead and tell them. 25 years ago, we started putting ingredients of new dishes on the name card itself so that people knew what they're going to be eating.
Right.
Practices like this make sure that we are reaching out and communicating to our guests that, hey, we are here to look after you. Ask us, tell us. Sometimes, in the excitement and the anxiousness of organizing an event, the host forgets. We always tell them it's our experience. When Sam's is catering, we are the hosts and you are invited. That's a mantra that we've stuck by. So little things that our experience tells us is going to be wanted, whether it's on the menu or it's not. We create it, we bring it, and we keep it ready. So that when they think, oh my God, I should have organized that, it's already
done. Right.
It's already done.
So food industry as a whole also has a lot of wastage. How does Uncle Sam's Kitchen handle that? And or how do you contribute towards the betterment of food wastage as a whole?
Right. So I'll firstly say it's the experience. We've also learned the hard way, but it's experience tells you how you can plan your quantities. They're very important. So we have a thumb rule on how we work. That's the first thing. The second thing is we also carry a little bit extra along. Should there be any shortage, we jump into action. Third, we don't outsource. So it's not like today I have dosa, appam, a biryani. So somebody else is bringing dosa, somebody else is bringing appam, somebody is bringing biryani. Everything comes from one kitchen. Should there be any shortage, our chefs are available to immediately get into action and send supplies and backups. And that happens very often. We actually catered for a wedding where the number doubled. And you can imagine the
The pressure on
pressure on us because the host and the hostess were on the stage and it was their son's wedding and the number had doubled. But they didn't even get to know. They did know that people were continuously coming for long, but they didn't know how the food got managed. It was really like the blessing as Christ gave and the food just kept multiplying. But it's not as simple as that. There has to be systems and processes in place. We've put those in place, and that's how we are being able to manage these kind of things. We also, when many times in a corporate event, we've had handis of biryani, handis of food, patrams and patrams of gravy. Guest has not landed up. They gave a guarantee of 2,500 people came. At that time, we have numbers of old age homes, homes where these foods can be sent immediately. We take that extra effort. They send their trucks and food goes to the right hands and we get a testimonial from the place where we are donating the food to the person who had hosted that event. So lots of different ways.
So good and positive impact being created as well.
Absolutely. I must also point out here that sometimes when we do daily food catering and the numbers are small there, and there is about 2-3 kg rice or dal or sambar left over, and the food comes back, we give it by the kilo to our lady staff so that when they go back home, they don't have to worry about cooking. They can rest a little because some leftovers have come their way. So little things which are making an impact and making lives of those who work with us better.
Among many of the awards that you've received, Best Caterers Award is something that comes up when we first search Guneet Singla online. How was it to get that award? What did it feel like?
I was on top of the world. We were in Mumbai and we had absolutely no expectation. Both Sameer and me were there, and it was a fantastic feeling. But, I must talk about another award which gave us even more joy, which is the Legends of the Food Industry award, which was given to us in the year 2024 by people of the industry. So not only your clients, people who are from the industry, who knows what it takes to manage this kind of an enterprise for this long. When they give you the legends of the industry, it was a fantastic feeling.
Feels incredible.
Yes. Some of the biggest retail names were winners along with us. We were the only one whose a name in the background, as in a bulk kitchen with no retail outlet, which was the legend of the food industry, South India. It was awesome. And we were not in the country at that time. It came in it as a surprise. So our daughter and our first employee and our sales manager of 18 years went along together and received this award. That team strength made that award even more fantastic.
More fantastic, right? You mentioned your daughter. Now, the next question is actually coming to her. Being an entrepreneur and a mother together is a very, difficult, I will not say difficult, but it's actually a task, right? How was motherhood for you? And we also recently heard that your daughter is coming into the business. So how was that journey? Were you training her to come into the business from a very young age, or was it her complete passion into the company?
Yeah, it's a loaded question you've asked. I'll start with motherhood and entrepreneurship. I think they're so similar. When you're an entrepreneur, your heart is walking outside of your body. When you're a mother, your heart is walking outside of your body. You're praying, you're putting in your very best to make sure it's a fantastic result. And motherhood was very, very easy. I had, of course, a very easy pregnancy by God's grace. But more importantly, my children, both my daughter and my son, I could bring them to work. The children actually grew up in the business. Not one day did they understand or feel that they were left at home. They were brought along. I could keep an eye on the children while I worked. And that's only possible when you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
And as far as our daughter is concerned, she has joined the business. She actually has completed her bachelor's in hotel management. Our son is also doing the same right now. He's a professional footballer, but he has left that and has joined the hospitality business. So I guess we're doing something right that children who never want to follow their parents' footsteps are actually interested. It's such an interesting business. Every day is a new day. There's a new menu, there's a new venue, there's a new client, and you've got to win. So with such a challenging, inspiring business.
And you bring smiles to people's face, right? In simple terms. So it is very exciting for sure.
It is. It's a wonderful business and it really touches the core of someone's heart. When people say, the first time I met my wife, you were catering, it's what a feeling. When someone says, my parents' 50th anniversary was catered by you in the temple, what a feeling. And someone says, my wedding or my corporate, I got an award for the best employee on my family day in front of my family. And then the kind of attention you gave us during food 25 years back, what a feeling. So 3 generations are being serviced by
Uncle Sam's kitchen.
Sam's, our second generation is coming in.
That's wonderful. In an earlier conversation, you mentioned about freedom. I just want to understand what exactly it is. And if you can mention a few words about it for the people watching, it will be great.
As a woman-led enterprise, it is our duty, our responsibility to make sure that more and more women come out in the workplace. It's very easy to say women should come out, but not everybody is blessed with a husband who's very supportive or with in-laws who are, required to pitch in when required. How can the workplace make coming to work easier? From the word freedom, we formed Streedom. Streedom. This is something which we offer to all our women employees, and about 40% of our workforce is women in kitchen, in service, in offices, in washing. I'm so proud of my women folk. We make sure we give their salaries earlier than the men. We make sure they can bring their children to work. We have a little creche which we provide so that women can work. There are little things which are done to make sure that women feel comfortable to be at work.
Right.
They have an open door policy with me so that they can come and talk to us about whatever challenge they're facing. We involve their family so that the family knows and are proud about the woman and what she's doing. Lots of little initiatives in Streedom make coming to work for women at SAMS a wonderful experience. And the number of women is just growing. So I'm so happy about that.
Now, coming to the most intriguing and favorite question, I'm pretty sure everybody already has a question in their mind. How far do you have AI and technology in Uncle Sam's Kitchen as a whole?
What a fantastic question, Meena. Really, it's a great question. And also one of my most favorite parts of the business. AI is here to stay, so don't fight it. Learn from it. We don't have any tick 1, tick 2 menus like you find in most places. We curate for everyone, we curate a menu. AI sometimes gives you some ideas, which we take very happily. But technology is very well married into our systems. I'll give you a little example. If you are hosting a 50 people party in your house today, or if the boys' side is coming to see the girl today and you are taking a catering service, it may be just 50 people. But can you imagine the nervousness and the excitement in your heart? Then you want to know what type are the caterers coming. Well, you will get a message from our team saying the team has already left. They'll be with you in 30 minutes. Whatever data we get from you, when I tell you that 3 generations are actually being using our services, all your data is noted with us. What are the rules and rituals of your house? Who are your servants? What kind of an infrastructure do you have? What are the things that we should take along so that there are no last minute hiccups? We have an internal CRM software which captures all the information about our client so that you don't have to keep saying those things again and again and again. Your house could be somewhere, the celebration could be in a beach house. All of that is noted so that no last minute mistakes are there. So technology plays a great role. Even in the kitchens, we have cooking systems where technological expertise, and we invested in these a long time back. We do, baking, steaming, and making biryani all at the same time, saving cost, time, and money. And we've invested into technology in the kitchens also. So whether it is servicing a client, whether it is capturing their data and ensuring that we give it back to you the way you need for your own convenience and comfort, or whether it is in the end result.
Right.
Technology forms a very important part of the food industry, of the service industry. The faster you adopt it and use it to service your clients,
Right.
the happier your clients will be.
As you very rightly mentioned, AI is there to stay. Don't fight it. Just learn from it and use it to your advantage.
And I always say, particularly in the food and beverage industry, the proof of the pudding is always in the taste. Nobody can take that from you. You can learn a recipe, but how you cook it, what you put inside it, and how you serve it is unique to you. So never fret the small stuff. Focus on the big picture and what your difference is in that big picture.
Certainly. Where do you see Uncle Sam's Kitchen in the next 10 years?
The next 10 years are absolutely exciting and enthralling. We are going to get into franchising in a big way. Also, each of our 6 brands are ready to fire. We have the Hospitality Academy, which is gaining great momentum, and we're going to be able to give more and more employment to the Indian masses. All those people who keep calling me and saying, "Can you train my domestic staff?" Well, good news, we're going to be launching a program for that. Our catering is going to get bigger. We are moving not only in India, but we also cater internationally, taking Indian food and bringing back the foreign bucks. So each brand is growing. Sam Chacha, which is our kiosk brand, is growing by leaps and bounds. And, we want to give this healthy, hygienic, homely food out of a small 100 square feet shop to all. It should, good food, nutritious food should be for everyone. Millets should be for everyone, and they should be available when you need them. So each of our brands has got a different scaling up story. And from the premium brands, which are moving to all corners of the world, to brands which are Chennai centric or South India centric, are also growing in impact. And the next areas seem to be very, very interesting for us.
And so lovely. Finally, what words would you like to share with women who are watching this podcast, who are waiting for the spark to come back or the spark to start something of their own?
I'd like to say, women, you're amazing. You're really, really amazing, and you can go places. Whether you're a young girl who's starting out in her life, or where you're somebody who's taking a break and wanting to get back, or somebody who's just at home, got dreams. I would say, A, work on your relationships with your mothers, with your mothers in law, with your domestic staff, because this is your ecosystem. Invest in your ecosystem. Let other women also grow. And you can start from wherever you are. You don't need a big pedestal. If you believe in something, you think you got a good idea, start, put in your very best, do it with passion, do it with care, do it small if that's what it means. And somebody somewhere will find you if you're genuine, if you're true, if you're passionate. And lastly, and more importantly, you go only so much when you go alone. But when you take everyone along with you, you grow very far. So go ahead and invest in someone else's growth, and someone else will come right back and invest in your growth. Keep dreaming, keep shining, keep soaring, keep believing, because yes, you can. Yes, we all can together.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gurdeep ma'am, for being on the Diamond podcast. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this whole experience.
Thank you so much.